Everyone remembers Pat Morita as the wise, gentle sensei who guided Daniel LaRusso through life lessons hidden inside karate moves. But in the months before his final breath in 2005, the actor privately revealed details that would change how fans see the Karate Kid forever. He confessed frustrations, doubts, and behind-the-scenes tensions that never made it into interviews, casting his own legacy in a new light. This revelation came during intimate hospital visits with his daughter and closest friends, when Morita decided the world deserved the unvarnished truth about his time on set. What he shared was equal parts candid, haunting, and utterly unexpected. At the height of production in 1983, Morita was already juggling success from his television role and a string of film appearances. He had earned an Academy Award nomination for his comedic turn in the Karate Kid spin-off, but that public praise masked his private struggle with being typecast. Early on, he warned producer Jerry Weintraub that playing a silent martial arts master might pigeonhole him forever. When asked to keep dialogue minimal and let young Ralph Macchio carry the emotional weight of the film, Morita felt sidelined. He feared his talents as a dramatic actor would be buried under the caricature of a mystical teacher. Yet bound by contract and respect for the story, he stayed silent until his dying confession. In one hospital conversation, Morita spoke of a specific incident that haunted him for decades. He described how director John Avildsen once cut an entire scene where Mr. Miyagi expressed empathy for Cobra Kai students, a moment Morita believed would have added depth and humanity to his character. The scene involved him quietly confronting Johnny Lawrence after a particularly brutal dojo match, offering a word of caution instead of ridicule. That glimpse of softer compassion, he felt, was stripped away to keep the film's narrative focused on the hero's journey. Morita confessed he never fully agreed with that choice, and those regrets lingered until his final hours. He also admitted that during filming, he battled imposter syndrome. Despite his Emmy nominations and critical acclaim, Morita often felt out of place amid the younger ensemble. He feared the martial arts sequences would overshadow his performance, or worse, trivialize his character into a silent stoic stereotype. This anxiety led him to secretly attend karate workshops before shooting weekends, hoping to internalize the discipline rather than rely on choreographed stunts. In private notes later discovered among his personal effects, he scribbled reminders, "Show the man, not the myth." It was a mantra he repeated in breathless whisperings to himself, long after cameras stopped rolling. Morita's confession also peeled back the veneer on his relationship with co-star Ralph Macchio. On screen, they shared a bond that felt timeless, but Morita revealed tension fueled by Macchio's inexperience. He admitted to moments of frustration when young Ralph would forget lines or stumble during practice, forcing Morita to step up not just as a teacher character, but as a mentor off-camera. There was one incident where, after a particularly rough rehearsal, Morita snapped at Macchio, chastising him harshly for breaking character. Later, overcome with guilt, he apologized and arranged a late-night visit to Macchio's trailer with takeout sushi, reaffirming their partnership. That act of humility, Morita believed, solidified their real-life camaraderie and set the tone for decades of mutual respect. He went on to confide that the famous wax museum scene nearly never happened. The moment where Mr. Miyagi pushes Daniel out of harm's way just as the wax figures begin to collapse was a last-minute addition, conceived by Morita during a late-night discussion with Avildsen. Morita pitched the idea as a way to underscore his character's protective instincts, but studio heads balked, worried it would rival the film's climactic tournament scene. Undeterred, Morita threatened to step down unless they filmed it. With pressure mounting and Macchio's safety at stake, the producers relented. Morita considered it one of his proudest achievements, but admitted he never saw a cent of extra pay for that life-saving stunt. In the last days of his life, in hospice care, Morita's tone shifted from regret to gratitude. He expressed pride in his legacy, acknowledging that every cut scene, moment of self-doubt, and private gripe had shaped the beloved figure fans adored. His daughter shared that he planned a letter for publication, detailing his journey from factory worker to screen star and the lessons learned. Although he never finished the manuscript, his final confession inspired loved ones to preserve the truths he valued. Through interviews, unpublished diaries, and testimonials, Pat Morita's full story emerged, revealing the depth behind his iconic mustache and calm smile. His revelation changed everything, but Morita's revelations didn't end with that wax museum stunt. He also confessed to a long-standing dispute over the film's script, one that nearly derailed production. Early in rehearsals, he approached screenwriter Robert Mark Kamen, insisting that Mr. Miyagi needed more agency and depth. "I want to speak more," Morita argued, marking proposed dialogue in the margins, gentle admonitions about responsibility, personal anecdotes from his youth, reflections on sacrifice. Yet studio executives feared slowing the momentum of the hero's journey. They ordered his lines cut, leaving only cryptic allusions in the final edit. In Hospice, he admitted he regretted not pushing harder. Those deleted speeches, he believed, would have filled Miyagi's silence with richer meaning. Fans would marvel at the depth he hinted at but never revealed. He also revealed a tense relationship with producer Jerry Weintraub, whom Morita respected, yet privately felt sidelined his creative voice. During one brisk morning shoot outside the Cobra Kai dojo, Morita decided to honor his heritage by bowing in traditional Okinawan style before instructing Daniel. When Weintraub saw the gesture, he stormed over and barked, "No gimmicks, keep it simple." With disappointment tucked behind his serene expression, Morita removed the bow by the next take. In his last conversations, he regretted that compromise. He realized small cultural moments, however subtle, could educate audiences and lend authenticity. Morita believed cultural authenticity should never be sacrificed on the altar of pacing. The actor confessed to physical sacrifices few knew about. The iconic crane kick required hours repeated on sand, wood, and painted studio floors, each impact torturing his aging joints. He smuggled anti-inflammatory pills into his pockets, fearing a single grimace might force a schedule delay. He even trained in secret, attending midnight karate workshops in Venice Beach to refine his own form rather than rely on stunt doubles. During a break, a grip noticed his trembling hands and offered to help tape his wrist. Morita refused, stubbornly insisting, "A real mentor never stops training." Yet he always insisted that true discipline comes from self-care as much as physical exertion. Perhaps his most astonishing admission regarded the original ending. Morita had co-written an alternative climax in which Mr. Miyagi, hidden in darkness, silently defeats Johnny Lawrence in a sudden, graceful display of mastery. The twist, he believed, symbolized humility triumphing over arrogance. He pitched it passionately to director John Avildsen. "Let the teacher step out of the shadows for one silent moment." But Avildsen feared it would eclipse the student's victory and refused. Morita conceded, placing the scene aside. He confessed it broke him to know his greatest contribution lay unseen on a cutting room floor. "That wound remained fresh until his final breath," he said. His confessions ranged from professional regrets to tender personal memories. He spoke warmly of co-star Ralph Macchio, confessing he once snapped harshly after Ralph flubbed a take, leading to tears in the rehearsal room. Morita described rushing to comfort him with takeout sushi and sincere apologies, forging a bond beyond the set. He also revealed a secret friendship with makeup artist Lillian Chun, whose cultural insights into Okinawan traditions he credited with deepening his performance. During grueling makeup sessions, they would whisper backstories, Chun describing grandfathers teaching katas at dawn, Morita listening with reverence. Those whispers behind the scenes, he said, fueled the genuine chemistry audiences felt on screen. Despite all the cuts, rehearsals, and compromises, Morita's final overriding sentiment was gratitude. He told those bedside that every frustration had shaped a performance that resonated across generations. He acknowledged that some lines must be lost for pace, some tutelage silent to maintain mystery. Yet in the silent hospital room, he insisted the world see how deeply he strove to honor every aspect of his character. He hoped fans would recognize Mr. Miyagi as a living legacy, not just a fantasy mentor. "I fought for every syllable," he whispered, "and even in silence, that fight was my gift." In his unpublished memoir fragments found among his personal papers, Morita urged future filmmakers to credit unsung heroes, dialect coaches, cinematographers, fight choreographers, carpenters who built the stage sets. Miyagi might not have glided across those floors without their hands, he wrote in a spread of loose-leaf notes. He implored producers to include detailed acknowledgments not only in end credits, but in promotional materials. That final admonition, discovered by his daughter, became the catalyst for a new industry code of conduct, now informally called Pat's Pledge. It encourages modern productions to ensure every contributor, however minor, gets proper recognition. Today, The Karate Kid endures both as a beloved film and as a study in creative collaboration and compromise. Thanks to Morita's dying confession, documentary makers have revisited the archives, restoring deleted footage as special features, and fans now debate the lost scenes with fervor. Pat Morita's legacy thus speaks in whispers and cuts as much as in his measured teaching moments. When we hear wax on, wax off, we remember the man who refused to let his own story stay silent, ensuring the spirit of Miyagi lives fully in every frame. Morita's revelations continued, peeling back the stories behind some of the film's most iconic moments. He spoke at length about the genesis of wax on, wax off. Contrary to popular belief, those words were never in the original screenplay. Morita confessed that during a break in filming the garage scene, he and Ralph Macchio began jabbing at each other with makeshift dojo metaphors. Morita mimed circular hand motions and quipped, "Wax on, wax off. Learn the form before you fight." The crew roared with laughter, and director John Avildsen taped the phrase for a sound check. By the next morning, Avildsen had slipped it into the shooting script as a way to teach Macchio muscle memory. Morita admitted he championed its inclusion because it distilled the real-life discipline he'd learned in secret training sessions on Venice Beach. He wanted Daniel's lessons to feel authentic, a mixture of practical chores and martial wisdom. The result became one of cinema's most quoted mantras and Morita's proudest improvised contribution. He also confessed to a heated debate over the garage's set design. Production designer Bill Malley envisioned a clean, European-style workspace, but Morita insisted on clutter, ragged tires, oil stains, battered tools, the detritus of a working man's hideaway. Morita argued that Miyagi's garage should look lived in, a place where wisdom rose from daily labor. After rehearsing an emotional version of the bonsai tree scene among pristine shelves, Morita felt the space rang false. He marched onto the set at dawn with a broom, scattering oil cans and muddy boots. Studio executives panicked at the apparent chaos, but Avildsen allowed the changes. When they filmed the scene later that day, the camera lingered on old wrenches, a broken stereo, and a scattering of car parts, visual echoes of Miyagi's hidden history. That textural detail, Morita believed, gave his character's guidance extra depth. He taught not from a stage but from a life weathered by work and persistence. Another confession touched on the film's beloved paint the fence montage. Morita revealed that initially he pitched a slower, more meditative version, long, lingering shots of brush strokes, wind-tossed grass, and close-ups of Daniel's evolving concentration. The producer balked, worried audiences would grow restless. Morita reluctantly consented to tighten the cut. Yet at the last minute, he brokered a compromise. He inserted sly sound effects, the rhythmic squeak of rollers, the hiss of jumping grass, even a bird's distant chirp, to create texture. Those subtle audio flourishes, he said, made the scene hum with energy and taught viewers to find poetry in repetition. He smiled, remembering how he clutched the sound mixer's arm after seeing the final print, whispering, "They felt it." Morita's voice softened when he spoke of the script's evolution during night shoots. He confessed he often arrived early to review pages, adding margin notes about Miyagi's backstory, stories of his days as a fisherman, nights spent mending nets under lantern light, memories of Okinawan festivals. These personal inserts never made it to the screen, deemed too romantic for an action film. Yet Morita believed they guided his performance, informing subtle hesitations in his posture and gentle inflections in his dialogue. "I had to carry their soul, even if they never spoke," he said, referring to those unseen lines. He also shared how his costume carried hidden significance. The simple teal-green shirt he wore in the dojo scenes wasn't a random wardrobe choice. Morita recollected a conversation with wardrobe supervisor Nancy Northcutt. He'd asked for a hue that echoed both tranquility and strength. She suggested the rare shade of Okinawan coral reef found in local dye samples. He insisted on a custom fabric, arguing that Miyagi's calm exterior masked deep reserves of resilience. When the shirt arrived, he said it felt like armor, an invisible shield he wore into every confrontation, whether teaching Daniel or facing Cobra Kai's aggression. Near the end of his confessions, Morita turned somber, describing a chestnut tree that shaded the dojo courtyard on location. The tree became his silent confidant during breaks. He'd lean against its rough bark, rehearsing lines and reflecting on dialogue choices. Crew members later noticed him scribbling on napkins taped to the trunk, snippets of new translation for OSU, the term of mutual respect he taught Daniel. He'd encouraged Macchio to use it instead of yes, believing the shift deepened their on-screen bond. Though the tree never appeared in the final cut, ubiquitous palms obscured its branches in certain angles. Morita insisted its presence shaped the film's spirit of quiet perseverance. As the camera rolled on their final scene together, Daniel's victory at the All-Valley tournament, Morita admitted his heart pounded with conflicting emotions. He was thrilled for Daniel's triumph, yet uneasy that Miyagi faded into the background as the hero's moment arrived. He confessed that backstage, he whispered a prayer of encouragement for Macchio, reminding himself that a true mentor rejoices in a student's success. In those moments, Morita believed the film's magic transcended any single performance, uniting mentor and pupil in a shared, silent exultation. He concluded his hospital confessions with a quiet assertion: Miyagi was more than a character. I poured my soul into every hidden corner. That drove him to record hours of audio commentary shortly before his passing, hoping future viewers would glimpse the depth behind every pause and gesture. Though some of that commentary remains unpublished, excerpts have surfaced in special editions, offering fans an intimate guide to the Karate Kid's creative heartbeat. Morita's last wish, as conveyed by his daughter, was for those commentaries to be collected in a single volume, the Miyagi manuscripts, so that his insights on craft, culture, and collaboration endure. In revealing these behind-the-scenes truths, Pat Morita ensured his legacy would be more than mustached wisdom. It would be a tapestry of improvisation, cultural pride, physical sacrifice, and unwavering dedication. Through his dying confession, Morita gifted fans an invitation to look beyond the legend and appreciate the many hands and every whispered backstory that shaped the mentor we all remember. In the years following the original film's success, Morita witnessed the franchise branching into sequels, television spin-offs, and animated adaptations. He confessed that his initial involvement in the next Karate Kid stemmed from a desire to guide new talent, yet he privately lamented that producers sidelined his creative voice. When casting Hilary Swank as his character's protege, Morita insisted on cultural consultants to ensure the authenticity of Okinawan karate traditions. His advice was summarily ignored, replaced by generic martial arts techniques that spoke to spectacle rather than spirit. On set, he quietly demonstrated traditional kata at dawn, hoping the camera crew would capture the authenticity, but found his silent demonstrations reduced in the final cut. Morita later whispered to his daughter that he grieved the loss of those subtle touches, the quiet moments of cultural transmission that defined Miyagi's approach. He believed those omitted details could have deepened audiences' connection to the mentor archetype he embodied. He also revealed a private conversation with director Christopher Kane, who helmed the fourth installment. Morita recounted how he walked onto the soundstage carrying a calligraphy brush and paper, intending to illustrate the concept of kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold, a metaphor he saw as perfect for a recovering Daniel. Kane appreciated the idea, but was wary it might slow pacing. The moment never made it to storyboard, and Morita admitted he was disappointed that an insight he viewed as profound remained undisclosed. In Hospice, he reflected that sometimes elders' wisdom is sacrificed on the altar of running time. Yet he took solace in knowing that he had offered the metaphor, and that the lessons he taught off-camera often resonated more deeply than any line on the script page. Morita spoke candidly about the animated Mr. Miyagi's Karate World, a short-lived series pitched in the early 90s. He had hoped to voice the character himself, weaving dialogue that emphasized patience over aggression. Yet network executives dismissed his pitch as too soft for Saturday morning lineups. Morita's final confession on the matter revealed the depth of his attachment. He'd recorded preliminary tracks in a home studio, capturing his voice guide for future episodes. Those tapes lay unheard in a production vault until his death. His daughter discovered the unmarked reels among his personal archives, prompting a campaign among fans to restore the recordings. What began as a schooling in simplicity and respect became a lost classroom of Miyagi's philosophy, buried by the rush of commercialization. Another startling revelation involved promotional merchandise. Morita confessed he had never given permission for the widely circulated wax-on, wax-off action figures. Pharmaceutical companies used his image on pain relief packaging tied to the film's anniversary without his consent. At his center bed, he shared his frustration with his daughter, frustrated over lost royalties, but more so over the commodification of his character's symbolic gestures. Morita detailed how fast food chains plastered his likeness on collectible cups, turning Miyagi's wisdom into marketing slogans. He felt these partnerships cheapened the character's dignity, likening them to carnival barkers hawking fortunes for a nickel. In his personal notes, he aimed to draft a protective stipulation: no Miyagi without Miyagi's heart, hoping to weave a moral clause into future merchandise agreements. In his dying hours, he drafted a passionate letter urging that any future branding efforts include educational materials on Okinawan culture. Though that plea remained unsent, its spirit inspired his daughter to establish a scholarship fund emphasizing cultural respect in media tie-ins. Perhaps Morita's most poignant unscripted confession came on one of his final nights, when he summoned his daughter and whispered a dream scenario. He envisioned a reunion scene where an older Daniel returns to the original dojo, now a school of many students, to bow before an empty shrine honoring Miyagi. The camera would linger on silent whiskers of incense smoke, and a final voiceover, "Miyagi is in you," would bridge mentor and pupil across generations. He admitted that this fantasy served as a meditation on mortality, on how teachers live on in the achievements of those they guide. Though the sequence remained unwritten, its essence animates every subsequent homage to Mr. Miyagi. In confessing it from his bedside, Morita completed a circle, from secret improvisations on set to imaginings of a final, unrecorded tribute. He smiled as he described it because, to him, the ultimate lesson of Miyagi was not in defeating opponents, but in life's everyday victories: patience, compassion, and the courage to pass wisdom forward. His daughter promised to honor that vision by erecting a small memorial plaque at the original filming location, always to preserve his memory. In the months after Pat Morita's death, fans and filmmakers alike grappled with the weight of his final confessions. Archival teams revisited every frame of The Karate Kid, restoring deleted scenes where Morita's empathy for Cobra Kai students hinted at forgotten depth. Documentarians raced to interview surviving cast members, eager to record memories while they remained alive. Streaming services scrambled to include Morita's unpublished audio commentaries with upcoming reissues, promising viewers an immersive guide to every unsung moment. Viewers discovered that the magic of Miyagi sprang not only from screenwriting, but from a silent collaboration among actors, craftsmen, and cultural bearers. Morita's daughter honored his dying request by completing the letter he'd begun, circulating it among studios and production companies. Known as the Morita Manifesto, the letter championed respect for cultural authenticity, fair acknowledgement of minor credits, and the importance of preserving unscripted moments. In response, a coalition of guilds adopted new credit guidelines inspired by Morita's vision, ensuring that writers, choreographers, carpenters, and dialect coaches receive on-screen acknowledgement, not just spot appearances. Students in film schools now study Pat's pledge alongside classical texts, illustrating how one actor's final revelations can reshape industry norms. Collectively, these changes echo Morita's lifelong mission to honor the humanity behind every performance. His story reminds us that what audiences see on screen often reflects countless hours of hidden labor and personal sacrifice. When a viewer now hears "wax on, wax off," they might imagine Morita practicing kata under streetlights or confessing his regrets in a hospital room. That connection between performer and audience deepens appreciation for cinematic art, inviting fans to revisit their favorite scenes with fresh eyes and open hearts. Perhaps most importantly, Morita's confessions invite us to consider our own silent contributions. We all have moments our best efforts go unnoticed, words unsaid, ideas uncredited, kindness is hidden behind the scenes. Like Morita's workshop, not captured on film, our acts of empathy can transform others' stories. When we share those stories, even in brief notes or acknowledgments, we amplify genuine connection. We honor every mentor who shaped our paths, every collaborator who covered our blind spots, and every friend who believed before fame arrived. In a nod to Morita's profound impact, current filmmakers are exploring live interactive experiences, blending screenplay with behind-the-scenes audio and interactive streaming events. Viewers can toggle insights on Morita's improvised dialogue, examine set design changes he championed, and hear the hum of film crews dismantling the dojo at dusk. These innovations fuel new creative possibilities, proving that even after his passing, Morita's spirit continues to teach emerging storytellers about the alchemy of collaboration. Yet no technological marvel can substitute the simple power of personal gratitude. In interviews, Ralph Macchio now recites Morita's bedtime reminders as a mantra for performers: show the man, not the myth. He credits that advice for guiding his approach to roles long after Miyagi. Teamsters remember Morita's midnight wrist taping as a lesson in perseverance tempered with humility. Documentarians chronicle his unseen suggestions, capturing how small adjustments, like the dusty tires in the garage, drew audiences deeper into Miyagi's world. These stories sustain a legacy not only of cinematic enchantment, but of respectful teamwork and mutual uplift. Morita's final confession, then, extends far beyond the hospital walls where he whispered his truths. It lives in every restored cut, every newly credited carpenter, every film student reading about Pat's pledge. It resonates whenever viewers learn that cinematic legends are made not in applause alone, but in the quiet chambers of backstage dedication. And it challenges us all. What hidden contributions in our own lives deserve recognition? Which whispered ideas could transform public narratives if only they were aired? Who in our teams needs a pat on the back for shaping our shared stories? As you close this chapter on Pat Morita's dying confession, consider seeking out the newly released documentary entitled No Chalk on Me, featuring unreleased interviews and restored sequences. Watch it not just for nostalgia, but to witness the living art of collaboration. And when you finish, share your thoughts. Which hidden scene moved you most, and what unsung hero in your own life deserves thanks? Join our community discussion below, subscribe for deeper dives into untold studio tales, and remember that every great story is written by many hands, and every voice, no matter how soft, holds the power to reshape worlds.